Good evening and a very warm welcome to Television Tonga's news package for tonight. Making headlines, Ministry of Health presents their second donation to Hapai this morning, a cheque of more than 10,000 paanga. Hapai relief assistance being discussed between Tonga and New Zealand defence talks, and a BBC News crew currently in Tonga to record an album of the Longipeau singers of Lapaha. These and more stories later on in this bulletin. Here's your news for tonight. His Majesty King Debo VI this morning based his final visit around the island of Whewā before his return to Nuku'alofa tomorrow. Our correspondent in the island, Setaleki Tukia, confirms this to Radio and Television Tonga News. He says during his royal visit, His Majesty urges the public to make use of their water supply and to maintain its current state. The King's royal visit aimed at inspecting some of the royal family's projects in Ewa. Accompanying His Majesty was Prince Ata, Lord Luani, and others. The regional and international counterparts of Tonga's Ministry of Health this morning lent a helping hands to help the people of Hapai that were affected by Ian. A cheque of 10,000 paanga offered by them with an additional fund raise of the staff of Viola was this morning presented to the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Chairman of the National Emergency Management Committee, Sami Waipolo, from the Honourable Health Minister, Lord Tu'iafitu. Anasi Falekano was then found this report.
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and the Chairman of the National Emergency Management Committee, Sami Waipolo, receiving the donation from the Honourable Minister of Health, Lord Tu'iafitu. In his remark, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister thanked the Ministry for the assistance. I did not expect any more donations from the Ministry because we've worked together since day one. Currently, we are considering building a transitional houses for the locals for the time being. Now, the Cabinet approved to start reconstruction of 50 houses, and it is basically for the elderly and for 30 people living with disabilities in the island. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister reaffirms that this assistance will be deposited to the Cyclone Ian Relief Fund and will be managed and distributed to the people of Hapai by the National Emergency Management Office, or the NEMO. The Honourable Health Minister spoke of the assistance. The Director is now working with the Ministry towards the reconstruction of a new hospital for the Hapai group of islands. This is after the Cabinet members approved for the project to begin. Today's assistance was made possible through the collaboration of the Ministry's national and regional sectors, such as the WHO. Attending the program were head of departments at the Ministry of Health. For Television Tonga News, I'm Manasi Falekano.
One of the acute issues discussed during annual talks between His Majesty's Armed Forces and the New Zealand Defence Force is seeking assistance for the cyclone-stricken island of Hapai. This was revealed on Radio and Television Tonga News by the Commander of His Majesty's Armed Forces Joint Operation, Lieutenant Colonel Lord Filakepa, and his New Zealand counterpart, Colonel Hugh McAlson. The meeting was held in Nuku'alofa at His Majesty's Armed Forces headquarters. Sinlato reports.
During the interview with Lieutenant Colonel Filakepa, he reveals they are waiting on the government in what kind of assistance they can provide. Meantime, he has requested assistance from their counterparts with regards to the cyclone-stricken island of Hapai. Basically, we're requesting for them to help with shipping over the equipment to Hapai. This is for the island to start their rebuilding process this mid-year. They've already sent over an aircraft to help send assistance to Hapai, so we're hoping for the same assistance. If they do, they will be funding their own assistance. This is an annual meeting held between His Majesty's Armed Forces and the New Zealand Defence Force to discuss issues in the past, present and going into the future. Leading the New Zealand team is Colonel Hugh McAlson.
So for us it's about how the military can assist the civil authorities to respond to those disasters, regardless of where they may occur throughout the Pacific and throughout our region. And I think, unfortunately for Tonga and New Zealand, we have a lot of experience that we've gathered in recent times from our own experiences with those disasters. So, sharing information and best practice about how the military can assist the civil authority is very important. And
various issues were also discussed during the annual defence talks, such as training programs for the soldiers and other important matters. The New Zealand Defence Force is His Majesty's Armed Forces' longest standing relationship with its counterparts since the beginning of the Second World War.
Some of the residents of Maungaone believed that the island will take 2 years to recover from the tropical cyclone Ian that has devastated the island. Bassiano Boltele, a victim of Ian, confirmed this to radio and television Tonga News. Linda Filiai tells you more.
A donation to be shipped to 25 families residing in Maungaone was presented to Nemo today, collected by the Maungaone people living in Tongatapu. Speaking to television Tonga News, a primary school teacher at Longolongo Government Primary School, but was included in those that were affected by Ian, Bassiano Boltele says the islanders are still in shock of what had happened. She says the island's main source of income, which are mango fruits and bandana leaves, which were severely battered by Ian. After Cyclone Ian, I realized the island needs longer time to recover. Every December, during the school holiday, we also visited the island, but this year everything has been damaged and there is nothing to rely on. Meanwhile, she also explained how they survived from the cyclone. When the cyclone hit the island, the Maungaone people were shocked and majority of the people seek shelter to the hall of the Free Wesleyan Church and the Church of Tonga. My family and I didn't get any chance to seek shelter anywhere else. We therefore hid under our house. Mrs. Boltele adds, while on the island, the first assistance received by the islanders were tents from the Tonga Red Cross and food donation from William and Mrs. Far's family in Tongatapu. Meanwhile, Moala Sisfar from the Maungaone Committee told television Tonga News that the donation prepared includes soap, mosquito coils and others, which they think was not included in other assistance received by the Maungaone residents. The committee is hoping to provide assistance towards the Maungaone resident based on their most pressing needs. In the month of March, the committee is planning to ship root crops to the island. We are lucky to live in Tongatapu because we have easier access to food and other items, but the Maungaone residents are very desperate for this kind of assistance. She adds one of the most pressing needs of the Maungaone resident was a boat to transport assistance to the islands because all their boats were destroyed. Mrs. Sisfar says the committee have sent a kerosene barrel last week and they are planning to ship monthly assistance to the island.
And that's the latest update from the tropical cyclone Ian in Hawaii and the assistance that has kept pouring into the island. But looking at other news items, there is high hopes for more improvements at the Hofahau College and the Tofawai Primary School in Ewa in a 400,000 paanga grant from the Japanese government. A signing ceremony for this assistance is currently underway at the Hofahau College in Ewa. Signing the grant contract was Japan's ambassador to Tonga, His Excellency Kasujika Hamura, and the two parties. The assistance to Hofahau College is estimated at more than 100,000 paanga and will be allocated on constructing a new multi-purpose classroom, a new home economics classroom, and a new toilet block. Meanwhile, another 100,000 presented to the Tufawai Government Primary School will be allocated on 90% renovation towards their free classroom building, the toilet block and upgrade work towards one staff quarter and 2 water tanks. Both schools applied for Japan's assistance in September 2013. The Commonwealth values its member countries' traditions and customs and hope to keep a record of it due to the changes in generations. 2 senior officers from the BBC News are currently in Tonga to record an old Tongan song sung by the Lombeau of Lapaha. Fonowe Kosa reports.
In an interview with senior officer from BBC News, Sushil Kama, they were told to record music from Commonwealth member countries, Tonga included.
Tonga is part of the Commonwealth, so our brief was to capture music from the Commonwealth countries. And when I was putting the itinerary together, obviously we have to think of logistics. So Tonga was close, but also through my research, was very musically rich.
He adds how happy he was to listen to such peaceful Tongan harmony.
Wow, it just touches the soul. It just goes straight to the heart, bypasses the brain, and it's just divine and really connects with your inner being. When we arrived here, we were coming out of the car and the musicians were already rehearsing, and it was just, we got tingles. So it's spiritual, life-affirming, and just brings the humans together.
The music of the old Lomi Beao sung by the locals was recorded yesterday. Speaking to radio and television Tonga News, the great-grandchild of the founder of Lomi Beao, Soane Ngutgola, says he supports the drive to preserve old traditional music in Tonga. I support this initiative to preserve our traditional music. Being part of the Puke Puke o Tonga group in New Zealand, we encourage the youth to continue upholding of our traditional music. These two senior officers depart the kingdom today. This program was held at the Free Wesleyan Hall of Lapaha. That is the importance of keeping our traditional old Tongan music sang by our ancestors. This, however, will encourage next generation here in Tonga to preserve our old Tongan music. For Television Tonga News, I'm Whanau Koso.
From court, 4 accused were released on bail yesterday after being alleged for possession of 98 cannabis. Nakita Tuitavake, Paula Tuitavake, Lotoviko Vaitaikola of Kolomotoa and Alex Seeley of Lapaha were arrested last week as a result of a search warrant by Tonga police. Police also searched for 2.22 ammunition on the same warrant. Some of the cannabis leaves found inside a booklet, while cannabis seeds were also found inside the box of match and others. This search warrant was issued to a house rented by Nakita. The accused will reappear at the magistrate court next Monday. In a separate case, Kevin Waifo'o of Mawhanga appeared at the magistrate court yesterday after being alerted of theft while employed at the Leola Duty Free. Mr. Waifo'o will reappear in court on the 24th of this month together with Katalau Ve'ila, who was alerted on the same case before. The prosecutor clarifies in court that another accused will be arrested from New Zealand later for similar charges. The amount alleged for this accused at the moment is estimated at more than 80,000 paanga. And that's the local news, looking at the latest from around the region.